Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerer's Guild. Today on Sorcerer's Shadow Volume 1, we are going to be discussing the essay entitled Creating a Magic Sigil. Now, unlike the essays that we have discussed in this book previously, this particular essay was not entirely written by myself, Sorcerer Tal. This is a guild essay, and what these are essays that we choose a topic, and then I post on that topic under the hashtag guild essays, and everyone that discusses that topic is then credited in the essay, and I take all the information from the discussion and compile that into a cohesive narrative for an essay. In this particular case, that is how to create and use a magic sigil. Now, as I said, this essay is entitled Creating a Magic Sigil, and it was collaborated by myself, Sorcerer Tal, Amber Herman, Mitch Moon, Lucy Marianne, and Astara Angelo, PhD. Now, one of the first things that we say here is, in creating a magic sigil, there are three main steps. The first is you make a statement of intent. We have discussed a statement of intent in previous chapters, but one of the things that we want to understand with a sigil, one of the things that we want to understand with a sigil is that it's best to be concise without getting too caught up on wording. Keep it simple. It's a direct quote from the book. The reason for this is twofold. First of all, when you are first learning magic, the more simple and basic that you can get these ideas that you're pushing out, the better luck you're going to have with that. But also, especially if you're using the letter method, the shorter your statement of intent is, the less letters you're going to have to contend with to create that magic sigil. We'll get to that part in just a moment about using the letters, but with a statement of intent, you're going to take if you use the lettering system, you're going to take the first letter of each word of the statement of intent. Some people use the entire word. That, I feel, gets a bit complex. And again, let's keep it simple. Okay, so we go on from there, and at the beginning of the next chapter, it says, sigils nearly always work, but sometimes they don't manifest as intended. We go on to give an example of, I fly to the store and get my stuff for free. Well, as it says in the thing, that's not really possible. So, more likely you might have a dream. You might find a free $20. Now, there is, of course, some of confirmation bias that can be involved in saying that they always work. But once you cast a sigil, they do always have an effect. And even if it's just something that, like I said, confirmation bias, well, belief imparts reality. At least when you're first going, perhaps just accept that, yeah, it worked. But that's only at the beginning. As you go on, you do want to take this idea of confirmation bias into consideration in your workings, or else that can affect the creation of the ego inflation power sap, as we discussed in the previous chapter. So, I just told you both things. Go with the confirmation bias, don't go with the confirmation bias. And there's an in-between, hopefully. You want to find a place in between where you're not so convinced that everything is going to work 100% how you want it, but not so doubtful that you're constantly concerned with confirmation bias. And we've gotten a bit of a tangent here, but we're just going to go ahead and keep going. So, what I'm saying there is that a sigil is always going to work in some way. Sometimes it might seem very distant you know, like you cast the sigil that we discussed in a previous chapter about show me a raven, and then you wind up just seeing a raven on the TV, or even just finding a black feather. It has to work within the potentials of what is there. But it will always have some effect if you're watching close enough. So, next you draw the sigil itself. This is where we go from intent to form. Now, as far as creating a sigil, I do have a video that I did on that previously, back when I thought that my camera filmed in reverse if I had it faced at me. You'll notice that in the video that I keep referring to things as reversed. But there is a good video that I have already done on creating a magic sigil using the basic letter method. But as I say here, the important thing is that the symbol, actually I don't think it was me that said this, I believe this was Amber Herman, but in it says, the important thing is that the symbol means the same as the statement of intent and that you believe it is. What that means is, when you create the symbol, you need to see it as being representative of your desire. Then we say, after a while, you'll find your style, and the symbols will seem to look right. Okay. What that means is, it's up to you. It just seemed to look right. I feel that's the part there that might be a bit confusing to some people. That it just looks right. Well, don't overthink that. Once you feel like this symbol is, even if it's just good enough, even if you're just done, you can't work on it no more, this is the symbol, well, that's not really giving up. That's accepting that that is how that symbol is supposed to look. Even if it doesn't quite feel right to you, if you made it, it's the best you can do, go with it. But you are looking for that feeling of, okay, this is it. No one can decide that for you. It's like picking a painting that you like. You can't ask me what paintings you like. You have to decide that for yourself. Same with the shape and form of your sigils. You have to decide that, and eventually they'll just feel right to you. And you'll pick up your own aesthetic, your own style. What kind of clothes you wear. Might be a crazy person, wear psychedelic trench coats, who knows. For the third step, you charge the sigil. Now, I talked about the energy vortex method, and some people struggle with even that at first. And like it says here, you can work on getting the gnosis trance down as you progress. What you need here is similar to the focus during a Japanese tea ceremony where you are pouring tea just to be pouring tea. Okay, so at the very least, while you're drawing the symbol, you want to stay focused on what you're doing. Kind of zen with it. Get into the idea of drawing the sigil and just let it flow. Ideally, you want to imagine your energy going into it. But if that draws away from that focus, the focus is more important at first. Simply being in the moment as you draw that sigil. And that's part of how you charge it. Most people charge the sigil while they're drawing it. You could, of course, draw the symbol and then charge it using the vortex method, as we discussed in previous chapters. Or there are people that use other methods, as are known in the chaos community. You could also just simply blow energy into the sigil. But you want to do something that at the very least you feel you are putting energy into the sigil. Some people would say that you put blood on them at this point. I wouldn't suggest that, not with every sigil you create. That is a very potent form of life force, but it's a bit extreme for everything that you do because it creates a strong link. And we'll go over blood magic in a later book. We're not going to be going over that in this one. So, after that, now that you've created a sigil, go on with life. Immediately shift your focus to something mundane. Okay, so this is the release part. Yeah? I talked to before about intent, form, charge, release. This is where you release the sigil. As it says here, some people say you should forget the desire. You should forget about the spell immediately afterwards. That's great if you can do that, but this is beginning sorcery. That is extremely difficult to just have something that you want and then just forget about it. Completely forget that you cast a spell. Especially if you're excited about the idea you cast a spell. How are you supposed to just forget it? Well, don't bother with that. Just don't dwell. Don't focus on the intent. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, oh, did I do this wrong? Oh, did I do that wrong? I should have done this different. I should have done that different. Think about that after the spell is manifest. You can totally go over those things. Trial and error is one of the greatest teachers that we have. But you don't want to question the work while it is in progress. The same reason we talked about in the last chapter about the flare for secrecy. Well, this is just secrecy from the self. Yeah? And that's pretty hard. Pretty hard to keep a secret from oneself. So just try not to think about it. Try not to talk about it with yourself as little as possible until after it manifests. If you can't do that, if you can't release the spell in that way, well, there's another option. Release one aspect of the sigil, keep another one, and when you think on it, just think of yourself charging it. Because more charge to the spell isn't going to hurt it. As long as you're not pulling on the form, doubting it, or even lusting after it, trying to progress it along. So as you're charging it, don't go, oh, hurry up the spell. No, you just want to charge the energy into the spell. Keep to the charging. Just look at the sigil itself and push energy in, even if that's just in your mind. That, while it may have some dampening on this effect on the spell if you're not used to doing it, is a lot better than dwelling on it with the lustful results or doubt. So, worst case scenario, do that. Okay. Now, what you do with the sigil afterwards is up to you. I just suggested a few things there, but typically you are going to dispose of the sigil in some way. You could burn it. You could tear it up and throw it in the garbage can, flush it down the toilet. Other sigils you keep on your person. You draw them on a card, put them in your pocket, walk around with them. Lots of different ideas. Some you draw on the walls of your altar room to create a permanent field, or you draw them on a keychain, as I discussed in the video that I suggested a little while back on this video. And along them same lines, one of the last things we mentioned here is you can draw them with a UV pen in places where you don't want people to see them. Not even that's necessary. You can just trace the sigil. You know, and it's there. Draw it on the wall, wherever you want to put it. As long as you visualize it being there, the energy is there. The actual physical marks are not what we're talking about with the form. Okay, so that would be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. The next episode will be the .com sigil, and that is actually a sigil that I designed to help with problems in the internet realm. It's basically a protection sigil to prevent negative links forming from the internet realm. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. And don't forget to join us next time for the .com sigil. Before then, I probably will be making an unorthodox weirdery video, the first in that playlist, and possibly a sorcery self-defense, but we will be getting back to the next essay in this book very soon. I want to go ahead and get these done, and we're really not that far into it yet. I'd like to get these finished soon, so we will get back to this very quickly. Okay, until then, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.